everybody, it's Mike from Overground here, and I just finished participating in the second Carta Magica Webcam tournament that was held today on Sunday, December 6th. And I just want to make a quick tournament report and showcase what deck I played in the event. So, to my surprise, I actually finished first place. I was completely undefeated the entire day. I was the reigning champion at the end of the event, and had an awesome experience. I haven't had a chance to play in a TCG tournament in over a year now because of, what's been happening in the world. So it was a great time and a chance to shine and play this game that I've been hyped for and waiting for a very long time. And the fact that I could build a deck, take it into a competitive scene, kind of reinvigorate my competitive spirit, and take first place was a really, really, really cool experience today. So we're going to go over the deck list first, and then I'm just going to kind of talk about my matchups and why I played certain cards to deal with specific matchups. So let's go ahead and go into the tabletop display right now. So, as you can see here, top card in the deck is Omnimon. That might give the deck away, but we're going to go into the babies. So the babies are going to be 4 Omnimon and 1 Omnimon. And I can potentially already hear you groaning because you already know where this is headed. I mean, the video is probably going to be titled what the name of the deck is already, and it's Omnimon Blue. I'm not gonna hide it from you guys. And Omnimon is just the best blue baby that we have right now in the archetype in general. And I'm not going to really go over what he does. You probably already know what he does. If you don't, when you declare attack, when him is the heritable, if your opponent doesn't have any sources under any of their Digimon, you get to draw a card, which is really neat. And this is one of the reasons why I chose to play Omnimon Blue over Omnimon Red. Although Omnimon Red had a lot of power plays and very aggressive pushes, I found that the blue deck was a lot more consistent in terms of draw power and cycling, and had a lot more opportunity to play the resource management game, because you have things like Hammer Spark, and you had more opportunities to get more bodies on the board through things like Metal Garurumon that we'll explain later, and just give you a more overall rounded strategy that had more things that it could do as opposed to just the straight beat face that Red had. And I was kind of toiling back and forth over the night before the tournament actually started if I want to play Red instead, and I was kind of constantly at odds with myself over what deck I preferred, but after a lot of testing on both variants, I did decide that blue was the way to go. So we're going to continue with the deck profile, and in this deck we're going to play 4 of the Set 1 Gomamon. This Gomamon is with the inheritable. When it gets deleted, you gain a memory. This comes in really clutch, especially when it comes into running your Digimon with this Gomamon under it into your opponent's security, because it'll help you gain a memory and extend your plays further, especially when we're in a format where we're constantly choking each other back and forth at that 1 or 2 range. Getting that extra memory off Gomamon to put yourself to 3 or even potentially 4 can make a really big difference in this specific deck. So let's go into the next card, and it's going to be 4 of the Set 1 Gabumon. This is just a really good rounded rookie overall. On play trigger for 3, you just get to draw a card. So again, this is one of those consistency pieces that Red doesn't have, and it lets you cycle through your deck a lot better. And at worst, you can just use it as a rookie to evolve into your egg in your raising area to keep your combos going. Next, we play a 3-3 split of Elecmon and this awesome, cute little sandcastle building Gomamon. And the theory behind the 3-3 split is just I needed 6 additional rookies, and I just wanted to diversify my names so I didn't run into a situation where I had multiple rookies on the board to get hit with something like Omnimon, for example. So that is it. Again, it's just generic 2-cost vanillas, really good for the early game. I can play them turn 1 to give my opponent the least amount of memory possible, and then just slowly build up my combos from there. Then we're going to go into the champions. So this is Omnimon Turbo, so we want to build the cheapest stack possible by having the lowest cost Digimon to evolve into in the entire deck. And that starts with Gorillamon, the 1-cost champion for blue. So 6,000, 1 cost to evolve, 6 cost to drop hard, which isn't bad if you absolutely need to do it in some situations. Then you've got the next champions, which is going to be 4 Grizzlymon. This is just the blocker of the deck, really no explanation needed. Next, we're going to go into the next champion, which is actually 3 copies of Garurumon. So this Garurumon combos well with the Metal Garurumon you're going to see later on in the deck. it just gives you another opportunity to make your Digimon unsuspended, and that gives you opportunities to attack with them once again. And with the Metal Garurumon, you can actually pop it out of the Metal Garurumon source to untap the Metal Garurumon that just attacked, or any other Digimon that are currently suspended. And in an Omnimon War format, your opponent's usually giving you about 5 or 6 memory a turn, so there are a lot of situations where you can attack with something, drop the Garurumon for 6, put yourself to 0, then attack with that Digimon again, which is really, really nice. And then the next, we're going to go into the ultimates. That's the end of the champions. So again, the cheapest ultimate possible, which is Monzemon. It can evolve for 2. It actually has a hard drop cost of 5, which is actually less than the Gorillamon if you don't remember. So this actually helps you step into your megas a lot faster if necessary, because you can play it for 5 and then immediately have an ultimate on board, step into a mega, and then potentially an Omnimon. Then the next ultimate we're playing 2 2-ofs, which is going to be 2 Were Garurumon and 2 of the set 2, or sorry, starter deck 2 Zudomon. So they're actually both from starter decks. So the Were Garurumon, its ability is that if your opponent has no sources, you get security attack +1. And the Zudomon, this is kind of a tech choice I made for the event. A lot of people play the set 1 Zudomon instead, which allows you to draw 2 on the hard play for 7. And it has the inheritable where if your opponent has a Digimon with no source, you get +1 memory on the attack declaration. What this Zudomon brings to the table instead is that on Digivolution, you actually get to trash 2 sources from the bottom of your opponent's Digimon. And this came in clutch in a variety of matchups, and it was tech specifically for things like the Mirror, and things like Purple, for example, because they have a lot of good inheritables that they want to take advantage of. Like, for example, this Gomamon. Blue is always trying to get this Gomamon under some of the most powerful Digimon, and if you can remove that, you can destroy those Digimon without any worry of your opponent getting extra resources to advance their game state. Furthermore, you can take away their Upamon, which allows you to kind of... Sometimes you have to play this deck as a Rookie Rush deck just to kind of get in, and getting rid of the opponent's Upamons actually allow you to spam your rookies out without giving them additional advantage, which is really nice. Furthermore, you can take away something like Pagumon from a purple deck, which stops them from being able to mill, and in the red deck you can knock out things like their Agumon and their Guilmons to give their Digimon any potential boost that could run over your stuff and survive your security hits as well. So those are the 2 ultimates. The Were Garurumon is also in here for cards that are going to be coming up soon. The Zudomon combos well with the Were Garurumon as well, because it will remove the sources, allowing you to give your Digimon security attack +1, which gives blue with the ability to be a little bit more aggressive, because usually red is the color that's saved for aggression and blue is the more control variant. This kind of lets you shift gears as necessary. So now that's the end of the ultimates. We're going to go into the mega lineup, and we're going to start off with Plesiomon. So again, 2-cost mega. Plesiomon honestly is like one of the biggest MVPs in this deck. For such a big body, it'll generally survive pretty much any attack into your opponent's security, unless you're hitting like opposing Omnimons or opposing vanilla megas. And yeah, it's just really good. It's gets onto the board for dirt cheap, and it lets you get a body on board to put Omnimon on top of, really, at the end of the day. Plesiomon, I found, shined the best in situations where I had to play the memory choke game with my opponent, as we're constantly kind of trading resources back and forth and playing that war of attrition with one another, and having cards like Zudomon as well for those 2 costs, because your opponent's usually putting you on 1. You can just kind of evolve, give them 1 pass, and then they would evolve, give you 1 pass. And as long as kind of you can get your Digimon to the highest level before they can start climbing their chain, you'll get to your Mega first, and you'll get to your Omnimon first. Finally, the last 3, actually not last 3, there's a surprise one that comes later, is the Metal Garurumon. So this Metal Garurumon is kind of a tech option because it combos well with a bunch of different cards. It can combo with this Garurumon, combo with a blocker, and it combos specifically with the Gabumon, and I'll explain kind of what individual instance does. So in the circumstance where you have this under the stack that you evolve into Metal Garurumon, you can actually attack with Metal Garurumon, bring this out from its source, and then untap it to be able to give an additional attack, and it gives you an additional body going into the next turn, or an additional body that you can put into an ultimate, depending on where you are in the current game state. If you have the Grizzlymon as the source, you can actually pop the Grizzlymon out. That'll give you a blocker on your opponent's next turn. This kind of gives this blue version of the deck a bit more of an interesting dynamic, because you're not afraid to evolve over your blockers, because you're not going to lose the value of having them in the stack. A lot of decks, sometimes as soon as they evolve for the blocker, that's done. You're never going to see the blocker again. But in this deck, you can actually use the stack of the blocker as a resource to bring it back out later on in the game. And with the Gabumon, it's on play effect, lets you draw 1. So with Metal Garurumon, you bring this out. Not only do you give an additional body, you actually get a draw card, which again adds that whole level of consistency that we talked about earlier. And then one last mega, which I promised you was a surprise. This is Metal Digimon. Now, Metal Digimon is probably the card that underperformed the most for me today. I wish it was a Volcanic Dramon instead. My reasoning for keeping Metal Digimon was primarily for the Rookie Rush matchup, and just in situations where my opponent was trying to kind of use a similar Rookie Rush strategy against me, I could drop it, I could bounce the two rookies back to their hand, or champions even, because it's level 4 or lower, and then they would have to burn that memory to resummon them, but then they would have to be on the back foot, so they wouldn't be able to attack with them. Furthermore, Metal Digimon, in keeping with our no Digivolution source kind of side strategy, with Metal Digimon, if it declares an attack and your opponent has no sources on one of their Digimon, that Digimon can't block it. So that's just kind of really neat. But again, it didn't really perform as much as I kind of wanted it to, and I wish I had Volcanic Dramon in the deck instead, just to give a better board clearing option when it comes to that sort of thing. The one benefit to Metal Digimon as well, I'm going to say, is that the fact that it was a blue mega, when I was stuck not having a mega in my hand and it happened to draw into Metal Digimon, as opposed to Volcanic Dramon, I can actually use this as a resource to evolve on top of my ultimate if necessary, and then this could step into an Omnimon. So that was the trade-off I found as opposed to the Volcanic Dramon, was that the consistency of it being a blue card in general, but I feel that the Volcanic Dramon is just better overall when it comes to looking at the format as a whole. And that was my mistake, but I learned something today through my deck building, and that'll just give me more insight when I go into the next tournament. Hopefully next week, when if I get an invitation for the official Bandai tournament. So now Ultimates are done. We're gonna obviously go into the big man himself. What the deck's named after? It's Omnimon. Not really much to say. He's such a beast. So Omnimon 15,000, if he's hiding in your security, he's going to wipe pretty much anything out. But if you happen to actually draw him and play them, when Digivolving, you get to pop any card your opponent controls and destroy every other Digimon with the same name, which is awesome and devastating. And furthermore, when it declares an attack, if you have a level 6 in its source, you can return the level 6 to your hand, unsuspend it, and then be able to attack with it again. This is really clutch because a lot of the times I'm returning my Plesiomons to my hand, which as we discussed earlier, is a 2-cost to evolve mega, which means that I can constantly try to abuse that memory choke strategy over and over and over again. But Omnimon is a beast. He is the namesake of the deck. He is this deck's real only main source of removal, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Omnimon performed great for me. There were times in the tournament where I actually had a hand of like 3 or 4 Omnimons at a time. I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I ended up kind of eking it out, and I was so happy about that. So next, the options we play are just 4 Hammer Spark. This is another reason why I prefer blue over red. Hammer Spark gives you the ability to kind of mitigate the memory choke, as well as mitigate the memory investments required to step up into the Omnimon. So with Hammer Spark on play, for 0 you gain 1 memory, but if it's flipped in your security stack, you also get to gain 1 memory. So the cool thing about Hammer Spark, and I'll kind of compare this to Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of people in Digimon have this thing where they'll be at like 3 or something, and they'll say, okay, put myself to 0, and then they won't declare their attacks until they've put themselves at 0. And in doing so, if I flip a Hammer Spark in my security, I gain 2 memory, and then their turn's over. Similarly, they'll put themselves to like 1 or something and then attack. And then I call this the main phase 2 of Digimon, where it's you play all your cards to put yourself to 0, you attack, and then you play your last card to end the turn to put your opponent in the least amount of memory possible. And Hammer Spark kind of came in a lot of clutch in a lot of games, because a lot of people still adapt that mentality when it comes to playing the game, and if people just kind of changed their approach, I feel like there were some games that I might have not have been able to steal. And finally, the last card in the deck is one lone copy of Matt. This was a last-minute addition. Originally, it was a 3rd copy of Zudomon, but I swapped it out last minute for 2 reasons. The first reason was, again, for the purple matchup and the mirror and all the Digivolution source denial side strategy that we got going. I thought that was a very good alternative win condition, and I wanted to just give myself more options to do so without having the need to have a body on board to play the extra Zudomon. So with Matt, I don't actually have to have a Digimon at any point in time. I can just play him. And whenever a blue Digimon comes into play, I can tap Matt and I can knock the bottom source out of one of my opponent's Digimon. If he's hiding in my security, I just get to play him for free. And the best part about Matt is that, as we've discussed in this whole memory choke denial war of attrition that this format is kind of brought to with all these Omnimon mirrors, Matt can make sure that I always start the turn with 3. And that was a huge, huge boost in my mirror match, as well as the Omnimon Red matches that I faced during the tournament as well, because they kept trying to do their best to leave me at 1 or 2. Well, Matt always made sure I got started the turn at 3, and that was super, super, super strong, and I'm so glad that I included this one copy of Matt in the deck. So let's get into my matchups for the day. So the first round was against a Lilithmon purple deck. There really isn't much to say about that matchup. Game 1, we kind of traded resources back and forth, as you do in any version of the Digimon card game, and he was able to get 10 cards into his trash relatively quickly, and he was able to slam down a Lilithmon and take advantage of very powerful effects like Chimeramon and Heat Viper very quickly. So I wasn't able to recover from that game. So unfortunately, it was a real kind of sad point in my tournament career to kind of drop the first game right out of the gate. And then we came back the next 2 games where I started playing a little bit differently to try to outplay his things like Trump Sword. So in game 2 and 3, I kept purposely not bringing up my Digimon from the raising area. I wanted to leave just one Digimon up at every point in time, and I just kept declaring an attack with it. So my reasoning was, if I attack with this one Digimon and it happens to survive, I will just keep putting the pressure on with this one single Digimon and deal with the rest of his board as necessary with the other cards in my hand. And if I keep attacking with one single Digimon, that Digimon will already be suspended, which means he will get no value out of any of the Trump Swords hiding in his security. And it actually worked out in my advantage, because game 2 there was 2 Trump Swords in his security. I was able to build up to a Plesiomon, just attack, not lose anything. I was able to put the Omnimon next, attack the Omnimon, not lose anything. And because purple is so aggressive with their cards and they play all these very big costed cards right out of the gate, it always gave me a ton of memory to just build up a whole stack here, play Digimon here. So if he dealt with this, then the next stack came up, and then I would attack with this Digimon while building a new stack, and then when this Digimon died, I would take the next stack up. It was just kind of this weird production line that I had organized, I guess, for the purple matchup. And then game 3 took a similar approach, where he actually bricked, he didn't have any rookies, and I was just able to kind of close the game out with a much more aggressive rookie rush strategy of my own, because I opened like 4 rookies and I just kept kind of dropping everyone. So that was round 1. Round 2, we played the red Omnimon match, and game 1 came to a point where my opponent had 2 Greymons on the field, and I was able to drop Omnimon and clear the 2 Greymons, and that kind of set me up on a path to victory. Game 2 was just a slaughter. He didn't open with any rookies. He started with a turn 1 Cordramon blocker for 5, and that gave me with just enough memory to just kind of build up all of my resources and just build up a huge momentum swing going into the next following turns. Round 3 was the Blue Mirror, which was streamed on Aspira's TCG channel. I'll leave a link in the description below if you haven't heard of him already. Great guy, George. So we had a really good game 1. We just we just kept choking resources back and forth, and it got to a point where we engaged in the great Omnimon Wars of 2020, where he set up an Omnimon, then I set up an Omnimon, then he set up an Omnimon, then I set up an Omnimon. And because we kept giving each other like 5 to 6 memory every single turn, we kept having enough memory to literally ride the entire Omnimon chain in one single turn, and just kind of kept taking out the opponent's Omnimon. And then it got to a point where I was just able to swing more attacks on him, and I got rid of his security faster than he could get rid of mine. I took game 1. Game 2, I did not draw a single champion over the course of like 6 or 7 turns, so I just said, okay, I guess we're doing Rookie Rush. And I kept trying to build up just enough attackers so I could have one big turn. He set up a couple blockers at some point in time, so there was no point in swinging with my weenies, because he was just going to block them, and I never had anything higher than 6,000 on the board that could deal with his blocker as well. And it got to a point where I set up like 7 attackers, 4 or 5 of them being rookies, and he just slammed Volcanic Dramon on the table and just cleared my entire board. It was a huge momentum swing in his favor, and I just quickly conceded that game. I tried my best to come out of it, but it was unwinnable at that point. Game 3, he actually made a very critical misplay that cost him the entire game. Our board was set up where I had Plesiomon, a blocker, and another ultimate. I believe it was Unimon on the field. And his board was a blocker, Metal Garurumon, and a couple two other Digimon, I'm not sure. But he attacked with Metal Garurumon, brought out a Gorillamon, so now he had 4 Digimon total, or 5 Digimon total at this point. And he was trying to just set up a game shot going into the following turn. He had 0 memory, and he hard played the 6-cost Garurumon to unsuspend his Metal Garurumon. And I think it's because he was under the assumption that I was trying to potentially go after his Metal Garurumon with my Plasiomon, which I was actually thinking about. But because he gave me 6 memory and he only had 6 security left, I was able to just play Omnimon for 6, put myself at 0, destroy his blocker, attack with Omnimon, bounce the Plasiomon, attack with Omnimon again, attack with my Zudamon, and then finish him off with the Cordramon. And that ended up closing out that match completely. But great game. I'm glad I was able to... I'm not glad that I was able to knock out a fellow Canadian and a fellow content creator, but I'm glad I was able to kind of be in their midst and in their greatness. So that was kind of really awesome. Actually, quick thing to mention too, in the round 2 match, I was telling my opponent about the YouTube channel, and he goes, "Oh, you're the Overground guy? That's awesome!" And that just put a huge smile on my face. I can't describe how happy that made me feel, because the fact that people are actually like resonating with our content and actually enjoying it, it was a huge boon to my mood, especially at that point, considering, you know, I was undefeated at the time, so you know that was also pretty good for my mood. But going into the next round, so this would be round 4, and I played against Rookie Rush. So his strategy, if you're unfamiliar with the Rookie Rush strategy, is just slam down a bunch of little beaters, keep swinging every turn, and then they want to throw Puppetmon down on your board to tap your blockers or tap your potential attackers, and then leave your entire board tapped. So that way, when you draw for your turn, you're limited options, and they can just finish you off in their following turn. It got to a point where I kept summoning blockers purposely, just to make sure that he could not swing in with his small guys. He ended up dropping 2 Puppetmons in succession, putting me at 10 memory each time. That gave me enough memory to go into an Omnimon, get rid of both Puppetmons, and close out the game from there. Game 2 was similar, just in the sense that I was able to outpace him because because his Puppetmon cost so much to kind of keep me from winning the game. I could play a better Rookie Rush strategy than he could, and just swarm the board and attack with as many Digimon as possible going into my following turn, and just close out the game as quickly as possible. The next round was against another Rookie Rush deck, which had a very similar output. I don't really remember much of the match, because it actually was very fast. I think the entire match was like 15 minutes total. It was just, he did his thing, I did my thing, I ended up having more things, so I won. And that was the same for Game 2. Game 2, he actually made a critical misplay as well. He forgot to hatch one of his Digi-Eggs one turn, and that put him behind to a point where he could have potentially won Game 2, and we could have seen a Game 3. But yeah, that is my tournament report for the day. And I'm happy to say that after everything was said and done, I finished first place undefeated out of the 40 players that we had today. I was able to win this sick Carta Magica exclusive mat, and I also got some store credit that I can hopefully spend on more Digimon. But yeah, this was a great day for me. It was a great day for the channel. I really wanted to showcase everyone that, you know, as much as I like to play all these fun, cool, creative decks, I'm also a competitive TCG player at heart, and I can do well if I really put my heart to it. But yeah, I had a lot of fun today, and I really hope to participate in more of these tournaments in the future. I'm really excited to see what other people bring to the table as tournaments continue to progress. Unfortunately, the Set 1 format might get a little bit stale as we move into February, but I'm still having a lot of fun. I'm hoping people can come up with fun and creative ways. I'm trying to tinker around with some fun and creative decks myself, and who knows, if I get confident enough with one of them, maybe I'll bring them into one of my next tournaments as well. But yeah, I know the list isn't super, you know, amazing. It's pretty cookie cutter at the end of the day, but I felt that I made enough cool little minor decisions to kind of push me over the edge, as opposed to some blue Omnimon decks. So I hope it's not as word of the mill as some of you may think it is, although at the end of the day, I know it's pretty much the same. But yeah, so I had a great day. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video for me discussing my day. And yeah, if you liked this and would like to see more tournament reports of this style in the future, make sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. We do awesome series here like the DigiDestined Cup, as well as the Learn With Me series, as well as the upcoming Rainbow series, where we're going to be showcasing a deck of every color that we built from everything that we pulled in our 1.0 boxes. So look forward to that. I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. This is Mike from Overground. Stay prodigious, everyone. Have a great day. Take care.